In what might be her most desperate move yet, Meghan Markle has allegedly sabotaged her own Hollywood comeback before it even had a chance to succeed. Word on the street suggests the Duchess of Sussex couldn't keep quiet about a cameo role that was supposed to be the film's biggest surprise, and now insiders claim she's paying the price in ways she never anticipated. This isn't just about ruining a marketing strategy. This is about burning bridges, alienating co-stars, and proving once again that Meghan simply cannot help herself when it comes to chasing relevance. The film in question hasn't even hit theaters yet, but behind the scenes, sources whisper that producers are absolutely stunned by what transpired. They had a plan, a carefully orchestrated strategy to keep Meghan's appearance under wraps until spring, building anticipation and generating massive buzz when audiences discovered her surprise cameo. It was supposed to be a win for everyone involved. The film would get headlines, Meghan would get her Hollywood moment, and moviegoers would get an unexpected treat. But according to reports, Meghan couldn't wait. She allegedly leaked her own involvement, destroying months of careful planning in one impulsive move. And here's where it gets really interesting. Insiders claim the timing of this leak wasn't coincidental at all. It reportedly came right as Prince William was making headlines during his high-profile trip to Brazil, suggesting that Meghan felt compelled to steal some thunder from the royal family. This pattern has become painfully familiar to anyone watching the Sussex saga unfold. Every time the royals do something significant, Harry and Meghan seem to rush out with their own announcement, their own revelation, their own desperate bid for attention. It's almost like clockwork at this point. But this time, the fallout appears to be hitting harder than usual. The movie boasts an impressive cast including Lily Collins, Brie Larson, and the son of Hollywood veteran Dennis Quaid. These aren't struggling actors desperate for any publicity. These are established professionals who understand how the industry works, who respect the collaborative process, and who reportedly aren't thrilled about having their project's carefully planned rollout destroyed by someone who couldn't control her need for immediate attention. Palace insiders whisper that Meghan's team had been shopping her around for virtually any cameo opportunity they could find, showing just how desperate things have become in Montecito. And when she finally landed this role, when she finally had a chance to remind Hollywood she still existed, she allegedly couldn't resist the urge to announce it herself. Consequences be damned. Now, according to sources close to the production, the only thing filmmakers can do is consider removing the cameo entirely. After all, what's the point of keeping it in when everyone already knows it's coming? But that's just the beginning of this story. Let's talk about what Meghan allegedly threw away with this impulsive leak. The film itself represents exactly the kind of project that could have served her Hollywood ambitions beautifully if she just played it smart. We're talking about a production with serious star power, the kind of cast that gets people talking and generates genuine buzz. Lily Collins, known for her acclaimed work in Emily in Paris, brings a massive fan base. Brie Larson, an Academy Award winner, adds legitimate credibility, and Dennis Quaid's son continues a Hollywood legacy that audiences recognize and respect. This wasn't some low-budget indie project where Meghan would be the biggest name on the poster. This was a real film with real talent, and she had a spot in it. According to sources familiar with the production strategy, the entire plan revolved around timing and surprise. The filmmakers reportedly wanted to keep Meghan's involvement completely secret until spring, closer to the release date when marketing campaigns would be ramping up. Imagine the headlines they could have generated. Entertainment outlets would have been scrambling to cover the story. Social media would have exploded with reactions. The surprise factor alone would have driven conversations for weeks, keeping the film in the news cycle and building anticipation for its premiere. This kind of strategic reveal isn't unusual in Hollywood. Studios regularly keep cameos and surprise appearances under wraps because they understand the value of that shock factor. It's marketing gold. When audiences discover something unexpected, they talk about it, they share it, they create organic buzz that money simply cannot buy. And Meghan, despite her limited acting experience, was positioned to be part of that moment. All she had to do was stay quiet and let the professionals handle the rollout. But here's what makes this situation particularly fascinating. Insiders claim Meghan wasn't just playing a version of herself in this cameo. She was actually acting, taking on a character, which would have been her first real acting work since departing Suits years ago. This could have been an opportunity to remind Hollywood that she had talent beyond just being a duchess who married a prince. This could have been a chance to show she could still deliver a performance, that she belonged in front of the camera for reasons beyond her title and her tabloid appeal. The producers had apparently invested time and effort into making this cameo work within the film's narrative. It wasn't just a throwaway moment. According to reports, they filmed her scenes with care, integrated her into the story in a way that would feel natural rather than forced. They were setting her up for success, creating a moment that could have reminded audiences why she got cast in Suits in the first place. All the pieces were in place for what could have been a genuine Hollywood win. And then allegedly, she destroyed it all by announcing her involvement before anyone was supposed to know she was even in the movie. Now let's talk about why this leak allegedly happened when it did, because the timing tells a story that's impossible to ignore. Reports suggest Meghan's announcement came during Prince William's highly publicized trip to Brazil, where the future king was making headlines for all the right reasons. He was there for the Earthshot Prize, speaking to world leaders about environmental solutions, representing the monarchy with dignity and purpose. The images were powerful, the coverage was overwhelmingly positive, and according to insiders, that was apparently more than Meghan could stand. This pattern has become almost predictable at this point. Every single time the royal family captures significant media attention, something mysteriously emerges from Montecito. It could be a carefully staged photo of the children with their faces conveniently blocked out. It could be a surprise statement or announcement. It could be Meghan forcing publications to use her Duchess title on magazine covers. The coincidence factor has worn thin. Palace watchers have started calling it the Montecito response, this reflexive need to insert themselves into the conversation whenever the royals are doing something meaningful. But here's what makes this particular incident so revealing. William wasn't just on some routine engagement. He was literally standing alongside the Prime Minister and dozens of world leaders at a global summit, addressing one of the most pressing issues of our time. This was serious, substantive work that showcased exactly what working royalty looks like when it's done right. And according to sources, Meghan allegedly looked at that coverage and thought, "Not on my watch." She reportedly decided this was the perfect moment to bomb William's headlines with her movie news. Consequences for the film be damned. The desperation dripping from that decision is almost painful to witness. Think about what it means that she allegedly couldn't wait even a few weeks to let William have his moment in the spotlight. Think about what it says that she would risk alienating an entire film production just to grab some attention while her brother-in-law was representing his country on the world stage. This isn't strategic thinking. This is compulsive behavior driven by what insiders describe as an overwhelming jealousy that has consumed the Sussexes since they left royal life behind. And here's the kicker. The leak didn't even accomplish what she apparently hoped it would. Yes, entertainment outlets picked up the story. Yes, there were headlines about Meghan's cameo. But the overwhelming narrative quickly became about the leak itself, about the broken trust, about yet another example of Meghan's inability to play well with others in the entertainment industry. Instead of generating positive buzz for her Hollywood return, she allegedly created a scandal that has insiders questioning whether she'll ever get another chance. Palace sources whisper that this kind of behavior is exactly why the royal family has become increasingly protective of their engagements and announcements. They've learned the hard way that anything they do might trigger a response from California designed to steal their thunder. If this story feels familiar, that's because we've literally seen this exact scenario play out before, and the parallels are so striking that even casual observers are starting to notice the pattern. Let's rewind to the Suits reunion situation, because what happened with Meghan's former castmates offers a perfect preview of what's allegedly unfolding with this movie production. The similarities are almost eerie, and they paint a picture of someone who simply cannot maintain professional relationships once the cameras stop rolling. Remember when the Suits cast got together for reunion events and podcast celebrations? Remember how they took the stage and made it abundantly clear that Meghan wasn't part of their inner circle anymore? It wasn't subtle. When asked about staying in touch with their former co-star, the cast members didn't offer polite deflections or diplomatic non-answers. They straight up said they didn't know how to reach her. They confirmed she wasn't in their WhatsApp group. They made it crystal clear that whatever relationship existed during filming had completely evaporated once Meghan moved on to what she apparently considered bigger and better things. And here's what made that situation particularly telling. These weren't bitter rivals or people who had some falling out with Meghan. These were her colleagues for 7 seasons, 7 years of working together, of building what most people would assume were genuine friendships, forged through long hours on set and shared experiences. The Suits cast had every reason to maintain at least cordial relationships with each other. Most of them did. But according to their own public statements, Meghan had somehow managed to exclude herself from that continued camaraderie. The podcast situation made it even more obvious. When the Suits cast organized a special podcast celebrating the show that gave all of them their big break, Meghan publicly rejected the opportunity to participate. Her excuse? She was too busy. But here's the thing, she wasn't too busy. She didn't have a podcast of her own running at that point. She didn't have a television show in production. She didn't have any major projects that would have legitimately prevented her from spending an hour recording a conversation with people she'd worked alongside for nearly a decade. The real reason, insiders suggest, is that Meghan simply refuses to share the spotlight. If it's not about her, if she's not the center of attention, if she has to be one voice among many, rather than the singular focus, she's not interested. And her former Suits castmates apparently understood that perfectly, which is why they moved forward without her, and didn't seem particularly bothered by her absence. Now, according to reports, that exact same dynamic is playing out with this new movie. Sources claim the cast has formed their own close-knit group, their own digital inner circle where they communicate and bond. And just like with Suits, Meghan allegedly isn't part of it. She filmed her scenes, she did her job, but when it comes to the actual relationships and connections that make Hollywood collaborations successful, she's reportedly on the outside looking in once again. Let's dig deeper into what might be the most damning detail of this entire situation. According to excellent sources close to the production, the cast of this film has developed exactly what you'd expect from a group of actors working together on a project. They've got their WhatsApp group, their digital space where they share jokes, coordinate plans, discuss the film, and build the kind of camaraderie that often extends well beyond the end of production. It's completely normal in today's entertainment industry. It's how colleagues stay connected, and Meghan, allegedly, isn't in it. Sound familiar? Because this is literally the Suits situation all over again, except this time it's happening before the film has even been released. At least with Suits, Meghan was part of the show for 7 seasons before her castmates apparently decided they were done maintaining a relationship with her. With this movie, she only had a cameo, a brief appearance that required limited filming time. And yet somehow, according to insiders, she's already managed to position herself outside the group dynamic that everyone else seems to be enjoying. Think about what that means. These actors worked together, presumably had pleasant enough interactions during filming, and then collectively decided that their private communications didn't need to include the Duchess of Sussex. That's not an accident. That's not an oversight. That's a deliberate choice that suggests Meghan's presence, even in a digital space, wasn't something the rest of the cast wanted to deal with on an ongoing basis. And here's what makes this particularly fascinating. Industry insiders claim this kind of exclusion is incredibly rare, especially on a professional level. Most actors, even if they don't become best friends, maintain cordial relationships with their co-stars. They understand that Hollywood is a small world, that they might work together again, that burning bridges serves no purpose. The fact that Meghan has now allegedly been excluded from not one but 2 cast group chats suggests something deeper is going on. This isn't about personality clashes or scheduling conflicts. This is about a pattern of behavior that makes her colleagues uncomfortable. Sources whisper that the decision to leave Meghan out of the group wasn't mean-spirited or petty. It was practical. The cast apparently wanted a space where they could be genuine, where they could speak freely without worrying that everything they said might somehow end up leaked to the press or used for Meghan's personal agenda. They wanted to build authentic relationships with each other, and including someone who has repeatedly demonstrated that she puts her own interests above all else simply didn't align with that goal. The parallel to her Suits experience is almost too perfect. In both cases, Meghan worked on projects where she could have built lasting professional relationships. In both cases, her castmates chose to continue their friendships and collaborations without her. And in both cases, the message is unmistakable. Whatever Meghan brings to a production, it apparently doesn't inspire her colleagues to want to maintain contact once the work is done. That's not a coincidence. That's a reputation. So what is it about Meghan that apparently inspires her colleagues to hit the eject button once filming wraps? According to those who've worked in proximity to the Duchess of Sussex, the answer comes down to a consistent pattern that industry veterans recognize immediately. Meghan, sources claim, has mastered the art of taking credit while never giving it. She's perfected the ability to center herself in every narrative while somehow forgetting that success in entertainment is almost always collaborative. Think about how Meghan talks about Suits when she's cornered into discussing her pre-royal career. She references those 7 seasons like she was the star, like the show revolved around her character, like her presence was what made the series successful. But anyone who actually watched Suits knows the reality. She wasn't the lead. She wasn't even close to being the lead. She played a supporting role in an ensemble cast, and while she did her job competently, the show's success had nothing to do with her specifically. Yet somehow in Meghan's retelling, you'd think she carried that series on her back. Remember when Variety cornered her on the red carpet, and she started making it sound like Suits was her big moment, her triumph, her launching pad? The way she spoke, you'd never know there were other talented actors who'd been there longer, who had more screen time, who were actually driving the storylines that kept audiences coming back season after season. And her former castmates apparently noticed. They saw how she was rewriting history, positioning herself as the star of a show that never belonged to her, and they weren't having it. But here's what makes this pattern particularly damaging in Hollywood. The entertainment industry runs on relationships. It runs on people wanting to work with you again, because you were professional, because you were a team player, because you understood that everyone from the director to the craft services crew contributes to making something successful. When you're someone who never acknowledges the agents who got you auditions, who never thanks the writers who gave you good material, who never shows gratitude for the opportunities that came your way, people notice, and they remember. Sources close to various productions claim they've never heard Meghan express genuine appreciation for anyone who helped her career along the way. There's never been a moment where she said something like, "I couldn't believe it when my agent at the time got me that audition for Suits." There's never been acknowledgement of the casting directors who saw something in her, the directors who guided her performances, the co-stars who made her look good in scenes. It's always been about Meghan's talent, Meghan's hard work, Meghan's success, as if she manifested her entire career through sheer force of will with no assistance from anyone. That kind of self-absorption doesn't play well anywhere, but it's particularly toxic in an industry built on collaboration. And now, with this movie situation, it appears Meghan is learning once again that people simply don't want to maintain relationships with someone who views every interaction as an opportunity for self-promotion, rather than genuine connection. Let's talk about what's been happening behind the scenes with Meghan's representation, because the picture that emerges is almost sad in its desperation. According to industry insiders, her team has been working overtime trying to book her for virtually any project that would have her. We're not talking about being selective, about waiting for the perfect role that matches her supposed talents and ambitions. We're talking about her agents allegedly shopping her around for any cameo, any appearance, any opportunity to get her face back on screen regardless of the project's prestige or her role's significance. Think about what that means for someone who constantly positions herself as a serious actress, as someone who walked away from Suits because she'd outgrown it, as someone who married into royalty and supposedly had her pick of Hollywood opportunities. The reality, according to sources, is that her team has been struggling to generate any meaningful interest in Meghan as a performer. Directors aren't calling, producers aren't reaching out. The phone, as they say in the industry, simply isn't ringing the way someone with her public profile might expect. So when this cameo opportunity finally materialized, it apparently felt like a lifeline. Here was a real movie with legitimate stars, a chance to remind Hollywood that Meghan Markle still existed as an actress, rather than just a tabloid fixture. Her team reportedly worked hard to make it happen, to convince the filmmakers that having the Duchess of Sussex appear in their movie would generate buzz and attention, and they succeeded. They got her the role, they got her on set, they got her that precious footage that could have relaunched her acting career if everything had gone according to plan. And then, according to reports, Meghan couldn't help herself. She allegedly leaked her own involvement, destroying the carefully constructed surprise that was supposed to benefit everyone involved. Now her agents are left dealing with the fallout, trying to explain to other potential collaborators why they should trust Meghan with future opportunities when she apparently can't be trusted to follow basic professional protocols. Industry veterans whisper that this kind of behavior creates a reputation that's nearly impossible to overcome. Filmmakers talk to each other, producers compare notes. When someone proves they're willing to prioritize their own immediate gratification over the success of a project, that information spreads quickly. And in an industry where thousands of talented actors are competing for limited roles, why would anyone take a chance on someone who's already demonstrated they'll put their personal agenda ahead of the film's best interests? The damage this leak has allegedly caused extends far beyond just this one movie. Sources suggest that Meghan's team is now facing an uphill battle trying to secure her next acting opportunity. The few filmmakers who might have been willing to consider her for small roles are now reportedly hesitant, wondering if bringing Meghan on board means dealing with someone who can't be controlled, who won't respect marketing strategies, who'll leak information whenever it suits her need for attention. For someone desperate to rebuild a Hollywood career, that's potentially catastrophic. Behind closed doors, the reaction from the filmmakers has reportedly been a mixture of shock, frustration, and genuine bewilderment. According to sources close to the production, the team had invested considerable effort into crafting a marketing strategy that would maximize the impact of Meghan's involvement. They understood that having the Duchess of Sussex appear in their film was newsworthy, but they also understood that the element of surprise would make it exponentially more valuable. They had a plan, they had a timeline, and then allegedly, Meghan blew it all up. One production insider described the moment they learned about the leak as absolutely stunning. The surprise was supposed to be their spring ace in the hole, the revelation that would generate headlines and drive conversation at exactly the right moment in the promotional cycle. Instead, they're now left with a cameo that everyone already knows about, which significantly diminishes its marketing value. The shock factor is gone. The viral potential has evaporated. What could have been a major talking point has become just another piece of casting information that audiences will shrug at when they eventually see the film. But here's where it gets even more complicated. According to reports, the producers are now facing a difficult decision about what to do with Meghan's scenes. On one hand, they've already filmed her cameo, the footage exists. Removing it entirely would require editing work and potentially reshooting certain sequences depending on how integrated her appearance is within the film's narrative. That costs time and money that wasn't budgeted for this kind of last-minute change. On the other hand, keeping the cameo in now feels almost pointless from a marketing perspective. The whole value proposition was the surprise element, the gasps in theaters when Meghan unexpectedly appeared on screen, the social media explosion that would follow as audiences discovered her involvement. Without that surprise factor, her cameo becomes just another brief appearance by someone playing themselves, which doesn't move the needle for ticket sales or generate the kind of organic buzz that justifies the headache of working with her in the first place. Industry insiders whisper that conversations have been happening at the highest levels of the production about whether the smartest move is simply to cut Meghan's scenes entirely. The rationale is straightforward. If the cameo no longer serves its intended purpose, and if keeping it in means dealing with continued association with someone who's proven she can't be trusted with confidential production information, why not just eliminate the problem altogether? The film doesn't need her. The story works without her. and removing her appearance sends a clear message to the industry about what happens when actors prioritize their own publicity over the success of the project. Sources suggest that while no final decision has been made, the producers are seriously considering that option. And the fact that they're even having these discussions speaks volumes about how seriously Meghan has allegedly damaged this professional relationship. Filmmakers don't casually talk about cutting completed scenes unless the situation has become genuinely untenable. The irony is almost too perfect. Meghan leaked her cameo to get attention, and now that attention might cost her the cameo entirely. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture here, because this movie leak is really just one symptom of a much larger problem that's been festering in Montecito for years now. Palace insiders and royal watchers have documented a pattern so consistent it's become almost predictable. Every single time the working royals accomplish something meaningful, every time they capture positive headlines, every time they remind the world what real royal service looks like, something mysteriously emerges from Harry and Meghan's California compound. It's like clockwork, and it reeks of jealousy. This isn't speculation. This is observable fact based on years of documented incidents. When William and Catherine make important announcements, the Sussexes suddenly have their own news to share. When King Charles presides over significant events, Harry and Meghan drop carefully staged photos or statements. When the royals are doing actual substantive work that generates genuine public interest, the Montecito publicity machine kicks into overdrive, trying to redirect some of that attention back to the exiled prince and his wife. The psychology behind this behavior is almost painful to witness. Harry and Meghan made a choice. They decided to walk away from royal life, to reject the structure and responsibilities that came with their positions, to build new lives as private citizens in America. Fine, that was their decision to make. But what's become increasingly obvious is that they cannot stand watching the family they left behind continue thriving without them. They cannot tolerate seeing William and Catherine successfully carrying out the exact royal duties they abandoned. The jealousy, sources say, consumes them, and it's making them do increasingly desperate things. This movie leak, allegedly timed to coincide with William's Brazil trip, is just the latest example. Think about what that reveals. Meghan apparently looked at her brother-in-law addressing world leaders about climate change, representing his country and his future role with grace and purpose, and felt such overwhelming envy that she couldn't wait even a few more weeks to announce her tiny cameo in a film. She allegedly had to insert herself into that news cycle, had to try to steal some of William's thunder, had to remind the world that she still existed even if it meant sabotaging her own professional opportunity. Royal sources whisper that this pattern has become so pronounced that the palace now takes it into account when planning major announcements and engagements. They've learned to expect some kind of counter-programming from California, some attempt to dilute their message or redirect media attention. It's become part of the background noise of royal life, this constant low-level interference from two people who cannot seem to move on from what they left behind. But here's the thing. The desperation is showing. The cracks are visible. When you're so consumed by jealousy that you'll damage your own career prospects just to grab a few headlines while your in-laws are working, you've lost the plot. You've revealed that all the talk about finding peace, about building a better life, about moving forward, was exactly that. Just talk. The reality is they're stuck, trapped in a cycle of envy and reactive publicity that's getting more pathetic with each passing incident. So where does this leave Meghan's grand vision of Hollywood stardom? Let's be brutally honest about what this incident reveals and what it likely means for her entertainment industry aspirations going forward. Because if this cameo leak played out the way insiders suggest, Meghan has potentially dealt a devastating blow to whatever remained of her acting career before it even had a chance to reboot. Hollywood has a long memory. Filmmakers talk, producers compare notes, and when someone demonstrates they cannot be trusted with basic professional confidentiality, when they show they'll prioritize personal publicity over a project's success, that reputation sticks. Meghan's team is now allegedly trying to book her for future roles while dealing with the reality that she's proven herself unreliable. Why would any director take that risk? Why would any producer bring someone onto their set knowing she might leak information, might break agreements, might do whatever serves her interests regardless of how it impacts everyone else involved? The answer, according to industry insiders, is they probably won't. The opportunities that were already limited are now likely to dry up even further. Her agents can pitch her all they want, but at the end of the day, filmmakers have thousands of talented actors to choose from who don't come with the baggage and unpredictability that Meghan apparently brings. The cost-benefit analysis simply doesn't work in her favor anymore. And here's the truly sad part. This cameo could have been exactly what Meghan needed. A small role, yes, but in a legitimate film with respected actors. A chance to remind audiences she could actually perform. A stepping stone back into an industry she claims to miss. If she'd played it smart, if she'd respected the process, if she'd let the surprise unfold as planned, this could have opened doors. It could have led to bigger opportunities. It could have been the beginning of a genuine Hollywood comeback. Instead, according to reports, she's potentially destroyed that opportunity and made herself even more radioactive to an industry that was already skeptical about working with her. The desperation to compete with Williams' Brazil headlines, the inability to think strategically about her long-term career, the compulsive need for immediate attention over delayed gratification has allegedly cost her dearly. So what comes next? If the pattern holds, if history is any guide, Meghan will likely pivot to something else. Maybe she'll exploit the children more aggressively, trotting them out for carefully staged photo opportunities and brand promotions. Maybe she'll lean harder into the lifestyle influencer angle, desperately trying to sell products nobody seems to want. Maybe she'll attempt some new venture that promises to finally establish her as the star she believes herself to be. But if she doesn't address the fundamental issue, the core pattern of behavior that keeps alienating everyone around her, none of it will matter. She'll continue burning bridges, continue making impulsive decisions, continue prioritizing short-term attention over long-term success, and Hollywood, like her former Suits castmates, like this movie's ensemble, will continue deciding they're better off without her. The Duchess of Sussex wanted to be a star. Instead, she's become a cautionary tale about what happens when desperation and jealousy override professional judgment. And that's perhaps the saddest part of this entire mess. She had everything she needed to succeed. She just couldn't get out of her own way long enough to let it happen. So what do you think? Is Meghan's Hollywood career officially over? Or can she somehow recover from this alleged disaster? Drop your thoughts below. And if you found this deep dive revealing, make sure to like this video and subscribe because trust me, the Sussex saga is far from finished. The next chapter is already brewing, and you won't believe what's coming next. Until then, stay glamorous, stay informed, and remember that sometimes the biggest obstacle to success is the person staring back at you in the mirror.